the ratings did go up this weekend. If they continue, not so much, I mean, straight on chair shots, but that kind of and those stabs at WWE, they'll pull the fans over. I mean, that's how they did it with Nitro the first time around. You know, they just got edgier and they were taking risks, and a lot of the risks went a bit tits up, but a lot of the risks worked for WCW, and ECW too went straight in like a, straight in with the crazy shit, and that got them over like crazy. So I think TNA can potentially do it. It just have to be steady from here on in, or else it's going to fold.
Yeah, I want to say hi to Tommy Coolwater, who is a big fan of Orlando Jordan in the ring. And I mean, maybe it's about time we saw more of Orlando Jordan in the ring. And if they're going to push him, certainly push him. Don't start the push and de-push, and like it always seems to happen. I mean, the Pope got in the way, I think, of Orlando's original push, but perhaps at the time they were struggling to know what they would do. Perhaps the only ideas coming out of Orlando were these controversial angles, and they take a little time to approve with the TV execs.
I think it will develop. They need to get him in the ring a little bit now, I think. You can keep doing these promos and vignettes and stuff, but maybe one more week of this kind of stuff, and then the following week he's got to get in the ring, because it's going to get old pretty quick unless he's in there performing, I think. Another person I think I've got to talk about this week is Shannon Moore, and this slight but super push he's getting at the moment in TNA. And why? Because he hasn't really done anything of significance. He really isn't anybody. I mean, he's running the WWE was minuscule. It would be a compliment to say minuscule. And here he is in TNA, coming in straight off the bat into the title picture, where you've got guys like Daniels who just bowed out, who, it's just, you'd wonder what the reasoning is. I think maybe it is because of his whole time with the Hardys and all that kind of stuff. But if it wasn't for them, I don't think he'd be even in TNA, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, also this week, the shocking return of Homicide. Homicide hasn't been seen that frequently, if at all, since that famous live Monday night show where he couldn't escape the cage. And indeed, I think that was certainly an embarrassing moment for Homicide. But then, they should have known he couldn't have got out of that cage, and why even book a guy who's going to have trouble doing that. Now, there were some other releases that kind of went under the radar. We talked about Daniels, but unfortunately, Consequences Creed also now gone. And indeed, if you want to keep up to date with him, you've got a website. I think it's gocreedgo.com. You can find out more about what he's doing. But I'd say he's a little bit disappointed, because he probably thought he'd be on the big show maybe this moment going forward, but unfortunately one of those cuts on the TNA roster.
I like Consequences Creed. I thought he had a good look, and he was great in the ring, and he worked well in with the X Division guys, and I think it would be a nice little scoop for WWE to take him on. He's got everything. He's got the look, and he's good on the mic, and maybe the gimmick isn't the greatest thing in the world, but you can freshen him up a bit. I mean, he's certainly better than some of those guys in FCW, so they could take a chance on him. But I was just thinking about Homicide's return and how they should totally put LAX back together. And a nice way to do it would be with the whole Hernandez and Matt Morgan split that's kind of going on. If you get some big title match at a pay-per-view coming up with those guys, let Morgan double-cross Hernandez, and then Homicide do the run-in, and LAX are back together, happy days, because they were a phenomenal tag team. And getting those guys back in the ring with Beer Money, and even Generation Me would make some great matches. I mean, LAX Generation Me at a pay-per-view, I'd certainly buy that pay-per-view.
Yeah, when LAX had Salinas in the mix and all three were together, they were over before she arrived, even more so when the lady herself joined the team. Was formerly, well, at least she's officially known as Shelly Martinez, an Ariel from WWE ECW. But yeah, LAX were a great tag team, and I can remember so many people talking about them like they would about Beer Money now. Now, if that's the case, and we're going to have perhaps less tag team concentration, with Hogan and Flair, etc., involved, then hopefully we won't have a situation where Beer Money go the same way as LAX.
They can't. Well, I'm sure they will have to eventually, but I just don't see James Storm back in singles action getting over, because he is bland on his own, and luckily, I don't know why, but it works with Beer Money. But Hernandez and Homicide work a treat, and I know they work great on their own too, more so probably Hernandez, but a lot of people would probably say, Hernandez needs to be on his own or whatever, but I think LAX back together would be sweet.
Yeah, James Storm had Miss Jackie when we last saw him, and indeed both with that sort of southern gimmick. And James Storm was good then. He had a lot of heat, certainly, and I think he still has some heat now, but certainly in the TNA Impact arena, those are the same fans every week, and indeed they're always going to pretty much react as they would the week before. So you're not really testing the water when it comes to these guys. I hope that the time will come very soon, and I'm sure Hogan and Bischoff are looking to do this, but to get it to those bigger arenas and just bring the TV cameras along. Now that's a lot harder with this live thing going on, but that's got to be the next step.
Yeah, it's going to take time at this stage, because it seems like the whole product is going a bit of a, no pun intended, spin cycle. It's just going around and around. I mean, I'm sure at this stage, when they debuted on 4th of January with the live show, I'm sure they were thinking by March, we'll be up to maybe 1.6, 1.7, towards the end of the year, hitting the 2.5, but it's gone the opposite way, and in a bad way, really quickly. So any hope of those big arenas, I'd say it'll be quite some time, if at all, when it happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time. They certainly had a lot of trouble in WCW days. They had to paper off lots of the seats. They had to give away tickets. People were handed tickets at the door. And indeed, it would have been a real annoying thing to have to pay for a ticket when other people got handed it for free. And you don't want to be giving away tickets for free. In fact, it was not too long ago at TNA were giving away free pay-per-view tickets. They couldn't fill those buildings.
Yeah, and it's a sad state of affairs, really. But what can you do? What can you do?
Well, TNA have some more steps to go. Everything has been a build so far. They've gone live now, and they're live every other week at this stage. And at this stage, they've really just got to push it even further. And I think they've done a good job. I think this week's Impact, excellent. And indeed, every week now, it's getting better. It's getting edgier, and always not safe, like the counterpart WWE. So TNA Impact this week was a good show, and indeed now I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the dirt sheets. Indeed, all of those TNA results should be at the bottom of your screen on YouTube, and we are in fact working to get those graphics here live on Justin, just like our monitor here behind us. We want you on Skype live, video or audio or both. Just add us, wrestledope@gmail.com, the Skype username just wrestledope. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, add us and you can be on next week if you like, right here behind us. We're leaving it dark today as a sign that is something to come here on Wrestle Dope. We want to add so much more to this show.
Yeah, it would be great to have some peeps from the chat room, or from YouTube, or from anywhere out there in the internet land, to be on the show and talk wrestling with us, because it's just what we like to do.